everyone. Welcome to Live, Breathe Film. You're here with myself, Murph, along with Doug, JP, and Corey, just four friends who love film. So today we're going to be talking a few things in relation to news in film this past week, namely the release of the new Tenet trailer and the huge news about Zack Snyder's Justice League and the Snyder Cut. From there, we'll talk more about the DCEU at large, and that'll kind of sum up what we'll be discussing today. But let's just dive right into things. So, yesterday, on Fortnite of all places, the second trailer for Christopher Nolan's Tenet dropped. This is probably the most anticipated film of the year for the four of us, I would say, based on Chris Nolan's filmography and all the great things he's done so far, and the fact that we're getting something original, and the fact that there's barely any movies actually coming out this year. But let's get your thoughts. What did everyone think about the latest trailer?
I liked it, but I definitely thought it was a little underwhelming because I was just expecting a lot of new shots, new scenes, but it felt like just adding more of the same from the last trailer, which I mean is fine, but I was just expecting more. But I am also more confused now than I was before, for sure.
Yeah, to piggyback off Corey, I completely agree that I thought I would have a little bit better idea of what was going on with that movie, but I probably am even more confused now than I was for what was in the first trailer. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Inception trailer in that way, where I know this is about time, just like I knew Inception was about dreams. That's about it. I don't really know what's going on, but it's Christopher Nolan, so take my money.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it looked very much like the first trailer, and I kind of understood, this guy is going to be able to, see into the future or something like that, and everything goes backwards now. But that's really all I got from this trailer as well, was more things going backwards, which looks beautiful. I mean, it looks great.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of practical effects, it looks like, too. Classic Nolan.
I don't mind the fact that it didn't really reveal much at all, because I like going into Nolan movies not knowing what's actually going to happen. I mean, I think the majority of his trailers have not been very revealing. I think the Dark Knight really didn't show anything from the last act of the film. It really focused on the first two acts. Inception was pretty kept things close to the vest until probably the final trailer that came out. But I definitely like the buddy stuff between John David Washington and Robert Pattinson. I've never actually seen Robert Pattinson look like he's having fun in anything, so he looks like his character's going to be a little bit more lighthearted than anything else he's done, and it looks like the vibe I get between them is kind of like Tom Hardy and Joseph Gordon-Levitt in Inception, which are probably some of the most fun interplay between any characters in a Nolan movie.
I don't know if it's the way the trailer was cut, but I thought Robert Pattinson's character reminded me a lot of Tom Hardy in Inception, even with the line at the end about the cheeky British line.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of had that, you mustn't dream a little bigger, or what was it? You must dream a little bigger, darling. Yeah, from the, which was a highlight of the Inception trailer. But yeah, like you guys said, I have really no fucking idea what the movie is about. But like you said, Doug, take my money. I don't know when they're going to take our money. I mean, do we think it's actually coming out in 2 months?
No, I don't think. I mean, I don't know. I think the decisions are going to be made incredibly last minute. They're going to really wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't have a date.
Didn't have a date. It's very clear that it will be in theaters. They couldn't have been more clear about that. I believe we're going to be hearing more about the big multiplexes, like the Cinemarks, AMC's. The latest I heard was they were hoping for a July 1st opening for those theaters. But if New York City, LA can't play this movie in July, then I don't think there's a chance it actually opens in July. Yeah. But I think Corey, you mentioned, it'd be a last minute decision. I think it's the type of movie where if they decide to put it out a week in advance, even without crazy press, or they announce in early July it is actually coming out this month, it will dominate theaters for at least a full month, if not 2 months.
Yeah.
Because nothing else being in theaters.
Yeah.
So they can sacrifice some money from the top in order to make a ton overall.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with where would they put it. I mean, so many movies from, February, March, I guess, until now or up till July, they're being pushed out. So the fall is going to be so crowded. Where are they going to put it? December? I mean, couldn't they put it in December?
It seems very clear that they're trying to be the first one back.
Yeah, yeah.
I haven't seen a trailer to a movie since this all really started. I mean, it's very clear that they're gunning for when this opens, and they plan to take all the money from all the people that are waiting to go back to the movie theaters, and I applaud them for that. I honestly don't see it happening in July 1st. Just my sort of bleak outlook on things. I feel like it's maybe August at the earliest, but even then, a whole summer of not seeing movies in theaters, there's going to be people lined up to see this thing. It's going to be tough to get tickets, I feel like.
Yeah, I'd say if the movie is not opening in July, their options are put it when Wonder Woman was supposed to be coming out in August, and then push Wonder Woman to October, December. If you put it out in December, then Warner Brothers has to delay Dune to 2021, or else you keep Wonder Woman in August and you put Tenet out in October when Venom 2 was supposed to come out. Because I think that's more. I don't think Tenet is a December movie for some reason. I just get a feeling that it's if they can't get it out in that summer time frame, then they could be the big movie of the entire fall season. But I could be completely wrong. We'll see what happens.
I mean, it would be pretty bad to push Wonder Woman yet again, because that movie's been done for so long. And even I'll go on the internet now and I'll just start seeing stuff from Wonder Woman, like plot spoilers and all this other stuff. It's just I don't know how long it can last in limbo until everyone's seen everything about that movie.
Yeah, no, you bring up a good point in that regard. I mean, it is a movie that's already been pushed back multiple times. I think it was originally supposed to come out in December of last year, and then once Star Wars got placed there, then it was moved to the summer and pushed back because of Corona. I think it can make a lot more money in December. That's the only reason why I think it could work. But you do bring up a good point about how they've done a lot of marketing for it already. So they want to get a ROI sooner rather than later. And while the hype is still high,
it's just a wonder that we got Rise of Skywalker instead of Wonder Woman.
Yeah, if they waited on Star Wars, probably could have got a better product, and it would have worked out for both Warner Brothers and Disney.
Yeah.
But
I want to go back and Tenet that shit.
Yeah, there you go. We don't exactly know what it means, but we'll bring it back a little bit.
I'm making it a thing.
All right, moving on. We've got some news on a sequel coming out, probably, I would say, most likely in 2021, 2022 at the latest, and that is Scream 5. So this new edition in the 90s franchise is being brought to you by the team who directed and co-wrote Ready or Not. Not sure how many people saw it. It was kind of like a sleeper black horror comedy of last year, of 2019. The people that you are listening to right now, huge fans of it. It's also being co-written by the writer of Zodiac, so it's got some
That's awesome
prestige behind it, and being executive produced by Kevin Williamson, who, as you know, wrote the original Scream movies, the first two, and was involved in the story for 3 and 4. David Arquette is returning to the cast as Dewey Riley, and Neve Campbell has been in talks to return. Anyone else that you guys would like to see return to the franchise? Do we think that 25 years after the original film, 10 years after the last attempt at reviving the series, should the original cast return? Do we think this, even like a straight sequel, even makes sense at this point? Or should it just be rebooted now that Wes Craven has passed and is not directing it for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, it would make no sense, but I challenge them to try to figure it out. But I want Matthew Lillard back, along with was it Skeet Ulrich? Yeah, bring him back, Billy, Billy and Stu, right?
And bring Randy back too.
Again, you would have to do a lot of the Irishman de-aging effects in order to make them look like 20-something-year-old teenagers. Because they were all too old for high school when the first movie came out.
Yeah. Even if they brought them back and it was like a flashback for whatever reason, that would be cool. But yeah, again, they would have to do Irishman de-aging effects for them, I feel, at this point. Although I haven't seen Skeet Ulrich in probably 15 years on anything.
I don't think anyone has.
Yeah, I believe he's on Riverdale. I just saw that he was dropping out of that show because it wasn't an artistic enough challenge for him.
Oh, he's on that? Okay.
Apparently, yeah.
I've heard
just
good
found out
things.
today.
Wow.
The paycheck wasn't big enough, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't even know he was on that.
With a movie like Scream, it makes absolutely no sense to reboot it because it's... I would at least prefer not to see it rebooted because it's just one of those movies that it's supposed to be ridiculous, and you might as well make Scream 5 because why not? I don't know what the hell they're gonna do, but it'd be cool to see Neve Campbell come back, even though I feel like it's a little played out with that. Maybe it's just a copycat of a copycat of a copycat. Was the fourth one a copycat? I forget it.
Fourth one's a copycat. Fourth one. It was Sydney's niece, I believe, that was the killer in Scream 4.
Lovely.
Because she wanted to become the new victim. So she did the murders herself and tried to get away with it and paint herself as the new victim. It was kind of like a reboot attempt. So, I don't know how they do the whole meta theme of this movie.
Sydney's got to be the killer now.
Yeah, fuck it. Just
it's the only thing left.
Who's going to be... I have to think that if they bring back David Arquette, Neve Campbell, and Courtney Cox, like the original trilogy, or the original... I don't know what you want to call them. The 3 main characters of the series. I feel like at this point, at least one of them has to die in the opening scene. There's always that huge, famous opening scene for each movie.
Uh-huh.
Who would you bet would be the one that bites the dust in the beginning of this one?
Got to be Courtney Cox. He's too easy to kill. He's got, he doesn't move very fast. It would have to be a real intimate, that would be real fucked up because he's not running.
Yeah, I don't know if he's even capable of dying. He's gone through so much. He just keeps coming back. He's like the fucking Terminator of...
Maybe it's just he gets stabbed and sand comes out and it's just it's just immortal the whole time, It's one of those things. I feel like Sydney, you either kill Sydney first or you kill,
I would agree with you. You kill Sidney Prescott or Gale Weathers.
Yeah.
And then the other two kind of come together based off that. And that drives the reason for those two characters being in the movie. Yeah. But we shall see in a couple of years. I'll definitely see it.
I think it's promising that the directors Ready or Not, and one of the writers from Ready or Not. I mean, it seems like a really good fit. Both
in tone, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Ready or Not did black comedy really well, and I think for Scream, it just seems like a perfect marriage. So hopefully, they're not just a one-hit wonder with Ready or Not, and they can strike gold again.
Yeah, I'd like to think they bring a fresh perspective to the series while being reverential to what came before it, and based on Kevin Williamson being involved, giving his blessing, everything like that, I think that probably will be the case. But as for our final piece of news for this week, and by far the biggest piece of news, it is the Snyder Cut and the fact that it is actually going to be released. Despite the fact that it was not a complete thing. A lot of money is going to have to go in to make this movie, but it is actually coming out in 2021, which is, I don't think anyone would have believed that was going to happen a few years ago.
Not at all.
Yeah, so I believe it's 20 to 30 million.
Mm-hmm.
That still needs to be put into this in order to finish the Snyder Cut.
Major post-production. Bringing back that entire team in order to finish this up. According to Zack Snyder, only about a quarter of what he did was in the film that was released in theaters a few years ago. For those who aren't aware, Zack Snyder, kind of the architect of the DCEU, the first phase of it with Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, Suicide Squad to a degree, and Justice League. He had to back down very far into the production of Justice League due to a family tragedy. So Joss Whedon stepped in, finished the movie, released that version of the movie to not many people's liking, and it was a box office bomb. Didn't make profit or anything like that. Didn't make it in the black. But now we're getting apparently what Zack Snyder envisioned, and it's going to close out his whole arc with the trilogy of films he made. So you guys excited for this? Did you guys actually think this would happen?
Not in a million years.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to happen. It might even be a TV show. It might be a miniseries, too. That was one of the rumors.
Series.
Yeah.
Either that or 4 hours long.
Yeah, they're saying it'll be some sort of a miniseries event or an insanely long director's cut.
I'd be cool with a miniseries, personally. I think that would be cool, especially since it's on HBO Max. Why not?
Yeah, if they go the miniseries route, they can have it hyped up and in the news for however many weeks.
Yeah.
Which would be big for them.
They could also do, if they do the miniseries route, because I believe that a lot of the reason they're doing this is to try to get subscribers onto HBO Max. And so what they can do is they can kind of follow that Mandalorian Disney format where you release one episode a week and you can at least lock people in over a period of time.
I have a feeling that's what's going to end up happening. I think it's going to end up being... It just makes sense for that platform.
Yeah, I just feel like the clamoring masses that wanted this just want a 4-hour movie to burn their eyes out and just be like, sit there and drool at it the whole time. I honestly don't even know how you would do a 4-part or a multi-part series of a movie like that.
So
I don't know. I don't even know if it could work.
This movie that we're talking about, I believe, was originally supposed to be in 2 parts, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is why it's going to be 4 hours.
No, I think this is just part. I think that's just.
Yeah,
part
this is
one.
Still just part 1.
Yeah.
Oh, this isn't. We're not going to get part 2.
We're not getting part 2.
No.
Oh, that kind of sucks.
I mean, who knows, right? If it's incredibly successful and they don't get back.
Well, now we're going to have to get a new hashtag after this airs, demanding that they film the Snyder Cut Part 2.
There you go.
I'm sure it'll happen.
Part 2.
Yeah.
Actually, we should probably just start that already, right?
Yeah, I mean,
it took 4 years.
Mission accomplished already. You might as well get it moving now.
The biggest thing I'm fascinated about is to see who of the original cast members come back to do whatever, record, new footage if they need to do that, or, voices, whatever. If anyone, who actually comes back to reprise their role. Feel like that would be really interesting to see.
I mean, I'm of the opinion that everyone will come back.
Minus
they
Ben Affleck.
all seem No, I think Ben Affleck will be back.
Yeah,
I do.
I 100% think Ben Affleck will be back.
Huh.
They're not going to have to do much. It's not going to be like they're filming anything. They're going to have to do some post-production voice work. Ben Affleck is definitely appreciative of Zack Snyder. I mean, he put him in the role.
Yeah, that's true.
He has been supportive of releasing the Snyder Cut prior to the news this week, along with, I think, everyone else in the cast. I don't necessarily know if Ezra Miller has ever said anything, but I know for a fact that Gal Gadot, Henry Cavill, Ray Fisher, and Jason Momoa all have.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see why any of them wouldn't be involved.
It'll be interesting to see, for sure. I'm definitely mildly excited.
Amy Adams, you think?
Was she even in Justice League? I don't remember.
She was in that scene where Henry Cavill's like,
oh yeah, with that
was fake mustache.
Wonderful special effects. Yeah, and Jesse Eisenberg. Well, he might, pop in, maybe.
I would imagine. So I'd imagine he has a probably bigger role than he had in. Was he even in the movie?
I don't know.
He was in the post credits.
Yeah,
he was in the post credits.
He was in the post credit scene. Yeah.
I would imagine that he has a role in it, and I feel like, love him or hate him, Lex Luthor should have a role in this. I mean, he started it all according to the timeline, so I'd like to see him. He is what he is,
I think we're all in agreement we will be watching this.
Totally.
No matter how they end up releasing it. I did enjoy Justice League, the original cut, or Batman vs. Superman, but just out of sheer curiosity, I'm interested to see how this turns out, because it is almost unprecedented. The only other case I can think of similar to this is Richard Donner's cut of Superman 2. But that didn't come out for like 30 years.
Yeah, it was a long time.
Until after Superman 2 debuted in theaters.
There was already footage, right? For that, it wasn't like you had to drop $20 to $30 million to finish.
Exactly.
The movie was done, I think, for the most part.
It's wild. They invented a new media in which to watch movies before that cut got released.
Yeah,
and went from VHS to what was it? It was DVDs at that point, right?
It might have even been Blu-rays by the time that came out.
Yeah, I think
I don't recall.
I think it was Blu-ray. I don't think that was DVD.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that came out to support Batman or Superman Returns or Man of Steel. But either way, it is pretty crazy with how long
it was on HD DVD.
It could have been. All right, but this kind of brings up an interesting scenario that we were talking about this past week. In your perfect world, what film would you have liked to have seen with the original director or the director who people expected to direct a film before they were either let go or just not rehired based on the work that they did for their prior film? We're very superhero dominated with this, but let's go with each of our picks right now. Corey, yours is one coming up where neither version of the film has actually been released yet.
Yeah.
So you want to go with yours?
Yeah. I would like to see Scott Derrickson return for Doctor Strange and to do another one. I really liked the direction that he took the original. I liked the vibe and the overall horror centric piece to it. I mean, it was very fantastical and very unique, and I would like to see him have a chance to continue in that universe with that same vision. Sam Raimi's going to be awesome. I'm not upset, but I would definitely really like to see him kind of express himself a little bit more in that world. So,
any of you guys have an opinion on it? I have my opinion, but I'll let you guys go first if you have anything.
I mean, it probably would have been better than the Doctor Strange movie that they put out. It's more memorable.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts are, I thought Doctor Strange was pretty good. It's kind of a middle of the road MCU movie for me. I thought Doctor Strange was way better in the Avengers movies than he was in his own movie. So that alone makes me think that somebody else can come in and do a Doctor Strange sequel better. Raimi is, I mean, he was originally known for his horror type movies. Never really straight horror, but this is not going to be straight horror either.
No.
You're going to get the usual MCU humor out of it. I think we were deprived of some more Raimi superhero movies. Neither of us included this, but obviously he was going to be doing Spider-Man 4 before they went in the Amazing Spider-Man direction. I would have preferred the Raimi Spider-Man 4. So I think the fact that we're getting him now into the MCU officially, he's going to be pretty cool to see what he pulls out of his hat.
Yeah, I definitely feel with the movie that one of the faults of the original is that there's a lot of people that don't know the character that saw that movie and it didn't really grab them. They, that they weren't able to be pulled into it just like how accessible the other movies were. But for me, because I've read the books, I've read the comics, it was very faithful. So I think that is one of the faults that maybe Sam Raimi will be able to kind of fix and make the second one more enjoyable, but I still would have liked to have seen him have another shot.
No, that's totally fair. Let's go with Doug, your pick next. We'll go based on when these movies actually would have came out.
Yeah, so my pick was Solo, the Lord and Miller version. And I mean, obviously the Solo we got was kind of hot garbage. I think we talked about it before. I really liked what Lord and Miller, especially what they did with Into the Spider-Verse. I just think that was a fantastic movie. It was one of my favorite movies in the last couple of years, probably one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. And so I think they're really talented. I really think they could have done something awesome with Solo. I think they could have maybe reinvigorated the Solo story, and Star Wars. And I think it's a shame that they didn't do it. And I'd love to see what they could have done with Solo.
And that one actually went into production.
Yeah.
So it'd be cool to see what they shot and see the difference between their version, because I think they did it in more of a comedy vibe where they were doing a lot of takes and there was like improv and things like that. So it would be really interesting to see that footage compared to what Ron Howard ultimately ended up putting together, which was very much a straightforward Star Wars film.
The mouse will never allow it, I'm sure.
It's a shame. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it was different, and that's probably why it got moved into Ron Howard's hands. But I have to imagine that their version was better than what we got.
I think it was probably just a little ahead of its time. Because I think now Lucasfilm is realizing they need to start going in different directions with Star Wars, and they can't just do the same thing over and over again. So it's a shame that they just didn't realize that when Solo was in production versus a couple films later.
Yeah.
All right. I will go next with my film. It's one that was in pre-production with the original director for a crazy long time, but never actually got to the filming stage with the director, and that's Edgar Wright's Ant-Man. So if you guys remember, that was in discussions as long as the summer when Iron Man 1 came out. They were talking about it all the way back then. Yeah, they had put out test footage also, which looked fantastic. Edgar Wright knows how to direct a inventive action set piece better than anyone who works in comedy traditionally, but who also knows how to just put forward a kick-ass action scene. As anyone who's seen Baby Driver, Scott Pilgrim, Hot Fuzz, really every single one of his movies can attest to that. I think this was another situation similar to Star Wars, where at that point they had their idea of what an MCU movie is, and they didn't let their directors put their stamp on things, and they wanted a little too much control in it. I think had this been something that would have came out maybe like 3 or 4 films later, they would have been a little more lenient and let Edgar do his stuff versus shoehorning in some Avengers adjacent stuff that wasn't really necessary. Just kind of let it do its own one-off thing. We could have got a really cool version of Ant-Man. I mean, we still were going to get Paul Rudd because he was cast in the role under Edgar Wright. So that wouldn't have changed or anything like that. I think we all agree Edgar Wright or Paul Rudd played the character well. He's just an enjoyable actor to watch in pretty much everything he does.
Yeah.
I just feel like the version we got, the Peyton Reed version, and the sequel was just okay. To be fair, and if we had gotten an Edgar Wright version, no doubt in my mind would it have been top tier, right towards the top, an MCU film. So I think that was a massive shame to anyone who was following the MCU.
Has Edgar Wright ever said anything about what happened since, he was fired or he quit, whichever happened? I don't remember if he quit or not.
Yeah, he quit over the creative differences.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the only thing I'm aware of is he wasn't happy with having to adjust the script to include Avenger-related material. I believe the big thing would be Falcon, the stuff with him, because that just felt shoehorned into the movie.
Yeah.
Didn't really work with everything else that was going on. But I haven't heard him talk any shit about the film or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he wouldn't do that to Paul Rudd. And he's just a good guy from everything we've seen from him. The only positive out of this is we did get Baby Driver, and Baby Driver was a pretty awesome film.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's crazy they had Edgar Wright rated to direct a movie and they just let him go like that.
Yeah.
Such a talented director.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that is the biggest blemish on Feige's tenure with the MCU is blowing that relationship. Overall, he's been pretty damn amazing with what his decisions and everything like that and how these movies have turned out. But that's one thing that definitely will always stick out in my mind as his fault.
Do you guys think there's any chance that Edgar Wright ever comes back to the MCU?
No.
No way.
I don't think you put 6 years of thought into something and then leave and then come back down the road.
Yeah.
Plus, he's so good with his original stuff. Like, I don't need him to jump into a franchise down the road unless he really wanted to. But we'll see.
I mean, he essentially already made a franchise with the Cornetto trilogy.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
his original franchise.
Yeah.
And Scott Pilgrim was an adaptation, but I think he kind of put his own spin on things with that. I didn't read the actual original source material or anything, but I have it very much looked like an Edgar Wright film.
Oh yeah.
But moving on, JP, you have the last one, and it is an oldie, but a goodie.
Oh, it could have been. So instead of getting Batman Forever, which was a pretty bad movie with an okay title, we would have gotten Batman Continues, which probably would have been a pretty okay movie with a horrible title. Of course, would have been the third movie in the Tim Burton Batman franchise. According to a lot of different reports and everything that was coming out about it, apparently, you would have gotten Keaton back, Michelle Pfeiffer would have came back, Harvey Dent reprising his role, Billy D. Williams reprising his role as Harvey Dent, potentially kept becoming Two-Face in the movie. Robin Williams was being eyed for the Riddler, which would have been crazy. And then there was talk of Scarecrow being brought in, and I feel like Scarecrow in a Tim Burton movie probably would have been one of the most horrifying things on screen. But man, I still remember being a kid sitting in the theater and watching Batman Returns, and despite having no idea why a lot of things were happening on screen, like Danny DeVito oozing black goo out of his mouth, it's horrifying, but I loved it. And I love Batman 89. And just to be able to see what they would have done with this movie, what could have been? I mean, it would have had the cohesion that Batman Forever just didn't have with the first two that came out. You wouldn't have had to see Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones dancing around on screen trying to out-ham each other. Maybe they would have liked each other in real life had they not met on the movie set of Batman Forever. Who knows? Maybe Tommy Lee Jones smiles a little bit more.
Boiling acid, though.
Oh, boiling acid, yeah.
JP, is this the film where Jack Nicholson would have reprised the Joker in Scarecrow scenes, or was that Joel Schumacher's third film that would have followed Batman and Robin, Batman Triumphant?
I think it was Batman Triumphant because I think I remember reading a script for that at some point.
Okay.
I think I still have it somewhere on my computer.
That would have been so cool.
That sounded very interesting, just having the Jack. I highly doubt he would have ever done it. So that would have had to be some weird CGI that didn't exist at the time. But this was the one with, what was it, Marlon Wayans, who was supposed to play Robin.
Oh, yes.
And I believe he actually still gets a check or did for the longest time from the studio to not play Robin.
Oh yeah, I read that earlier in the year.
What?
No, it was it was for royalties because he signed a contract and he was supposed to get royalties. In the contract, I guess he still gets residual from whatever deal.
Yeah, apparently right here it says Wayne's received a penalty fee and his contract allowed him the option of reprise. And as of 2018, he was still receiving royalty payments.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
That's outstanding. That's the best business movie you could ever make. But yeah, I just feel like with the tone they set with Batman Returns, it was just, it was Gotham. And I would have loved to see Billy D. Williams come back and reprise his role in that, and just to see him as Two-Face. Would have been really campy and weird, but I would have loved it.
It's funny how both versions, or both the film that should have been Batman Forever and the film that would have followed Batman and Robin, both sounded so much better than Batman Forever and Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
Well, it's easy to say they sounded better because we actually saw what came out and they were pieces of shit. Sorry, Corey.
And I would like to say it's like, everything sounds good until Joel Schumacher gets his hands on it. But I mean, he's not a hack of a director.
No, he's done some really good films.
Just Batman and Joel Schumacher, they don't mix.
And Warner Brothers definitely gave notes about kidifying things after Batman Returns, and how parents were in an uproar over how fucking weird that movie was.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go back and watch Batman Returns, it is super violent and super sexual.
Yeah. So suggestive, yeah.
Oh, yeah. The fact that they pulled out that they had McDonald's toys and stuff for it was pretty hilarious.
But it's wild because as a kid, I wanted all the toys. I got the little penguins with rockets on their back, the little crazy, suicide penguins.
I had those too.
I loved those, and I didn't see a problem with that as a kid. My parents We got the poster we had in our basement for the longest time for Batman Returns. I was all about it. I mean, just as a kid, I blocked out the weird stuff.
Half the stuff that parents are freaking out about, the kids don't understand what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Like, I didn't understand when Danny DeVito's talking about pussy, that he was talking about anything other than cats.
Yeah.
It goes back to other films like Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah.
If you watch something like that, Robin Williams is talking super dirty in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
As a kid, you're just laughing because you're hearing other parents laugh and things like that. But you don't actually know what's going on. So
Yeah,
Suggestive
you go back
comedy.
to 80s comedies like that, too. The 80s were really bad with that kind of stuff.
exactly.
Yeah, it's just, I guess it went in a way, and it's sort of like it easily would have been the last one because the way things were trending. I mean, Tim Burton was kind of not really fitting the niche for like, kid-friendly movies, obviously, but that would have been like the last bastion of like really weird, fucked up superhero movies that we got to see. And instead it ends with Batman Returns, and I can't think of another superhero movie. Maybe did Spawn come out after that?
Yeah,
Spawn was like the late
Spawn came out
90s, right? I loved
Yeah.
Spawn.
Spawn.
And that was
Spawn's
kind of
still pretty good.
vein. Yeah, I mean the
And
CGI is probably terrible. but-
CGI's garbage, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, mid-90s superhero movies are absolute trash.
The Phantom with
With Billy Zane.
and The Shadow with Alec Baldwin. Right? Alec Baldwin, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Those are dumpster movies.
And we can at least celebrate the fact that while we didn't get Batman 3, we did get Ed Wood from Tim Burton
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
out of
that's
this
true.
whole thing, and that's easily one of his best films. So
There's been a silver
When-
lining to most of these, I feel like.
exactly, it seems like with Lord and Miller, while I don't think they've actually directed anything since, they did produce Spider-Verse, which, as Doug, you said, is absolutely one of the best superhero movies, and one of the best films, animated films or otherwise, of the past few years.
I love that movie.
I think with we don't know what Scott Derrickson will be doing next, but we know we also got in the Sam Raimi case, when he didn't do Spider-Man 4, we got Drag Me to Hell, which was a kind of a return to form with horror for Raimi. So when one thing doesn't work out, usually something else does. So that is a good point to end this segment on. But moving on, we will continue talking about the DCEU at large. This past week, the four of us worked on our individual rankings for the 8 DCEU movies that have come out so far. Note that the Joker is not technically classified as a DCEU movie, so it is not included. The 8 films are Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, Justice League, Shazam, Aquaman, and what am I missing? Birds of Prey.
I'd like to note that it's also Batman v Superman, not Batman.
Correct. Batman v Superman. My apologies.
Dawn of Justice, and you will call it by
Oh
that
shit!
name.
Yeah, you're right. That it deserves to be called by its full title.
Birds of Prey, that needs its full title.
Oh yeah, Birds of Prey and the
Yeah.
Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn.
But now isn't it like Harley Quinn in Birds of Prey?
Yeah,
I think it's
Fantabulous.
Yeah, I think it's Harley Quinn : Birds of Prey. It's been a clusterfuck of a title, but
yeah.
let's discuss these rankings. So we'll start from the bottom. We'll start with our number 8 film, and not really a surprise to us, but maybe a surprise to some people listening. Our worst ranked film is Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, right? Dawn of Justice?
Correct.
Okay, cool. We have some very mixed opinions on that, going from outright hatred to there were some good things. JP, you are in the camp who liked certain aspects of the film. You want to start there, and then we will get into our versus matchup or our V matchup. And Doug and myself will give our thoughts on the film.
Sure. I mean, I think the one redeeming factor about this movie is the V. It is the V. It is the Batman v Superman. It's that fight was kind of everything I wanted to see as a Batman fan. I've always wanted to see Batman take the boots to Superman on screen in the big hulky suit, and it answered every single prayer I ever had to see that. It looked beautiful. It really was a beautiful fight. And then it ended abruptly, and I don't remember anything after that. Because I just
wait, when you say ended abruptly, would you like to talk about how that fight ended?
I don't know what you mean. The movie usually turns off after that
Martha
scene.
Okay.
Martha.
Yeah,
It was
the Martha,
and now they're best friends.
Yeah. But then the movie turns back on, and there's the warehouse scene, and that's pretty amazing too.
Oh, that's the best scene of the movie, I think.
I would agree that is the best scene of the movie.
It's great up until the point where Batman lights a man on fire,
and
then it turns off again. The fights in that movie were fantastic, and I think that's the redeeming quality of Batman v Superman. Is you got the Batman versus Superman fight, you got the Batman warehouse scene, and then just Wonder Woman showing up and beating the crap out of Doomsday with Batman, Superman. I thought it was fantastic. But the story was awful, and it was so poorly paced. And yeah.
I, on the other hand, absolutely hated the film. With the exception of that one scene, the one warehouse scene. I thought that was kind of reminded me of the Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, that video game franchise. I thought that was pretty cool, but otherwise I would have to just kind of reiterate some of the points that you stated, which were my problems with it. Overlong, dark. You didn't really mention this, but I thought the film was dark to a degree that it wasn't even like fun. Batman obviously is supposed to be dark, but I just felt like this was like just a brutal film that I just couldn't get into. Bringing Gal Gadot into the DCEU, I thought was a big win. I liked Wonder Woman in the film, and I liked the theme for her. So I thought Zack Snyder did a good job on that front. And I guess, did Hans Zimmer do the score for Wonder Woman?
I don't
or
know.
Just the theme for Wonder Woman in Batman vs. Superman? But either way, I thought it was a kick-ass theme that they've used since.
Wonder
That was something that I thought was strong. But then, Jesse Eisenberg was just miscast.
Yeah,
Horribly
Hans Zimmer
miscast.
I would have just liked to see a straight Man of Steel 2, because I did enjoy Man of Steel. And if we didn't get enough Superman or Clark Kent in the film, it was more of a Batman heavy film. And so soon after the Dark Knight trilogy, that I definitely couldn't enjoy it as much as I wanted, because I still had Chris Nolan, Christian Bale's interpretation like imprinted on me. Which is now I'm kind of glad that they did this. So now I have a sour taste of Batman. So when Robert Pattinson's version comes, I'm now all in and just ready for a new version. But Doug, I know you were also on the side that was anti BVS.
Yeah, I'm pretty far on the anti-camp. I hated that movie. That's probably one of the worst movies I think I've ever seen. If someone asks me to list one of your worst movies, Batman vs. Superman's always usually a part of that list. I mean, I agree with JP in that the Batman vs. Superman part was entertaining, but how long into the movie until we got the actual Batman vs. Superman
too long
part of it? And instead we've got the Ramberg just going off, who I thought, completely agree with you, Murph. I don't know what they were thinking when they cast him, but he's not Lex Luthor. He's just doesn't capture anything that I find to be menacing. I just felt like he rambled throughout the entire movie. Whatever he was trying to do and trying to capture in his version of Lex Luthor just didn't work for me. And I think that was a big part of what turned me off of that movie. I actually didn't see this movie in theaters. I rented it because of all the criticism I heard about it, and so I went into the movie with as low of expectations as you could have, and somehow this movie managed to go even lower. And so that's
almost impressive.
Yeah, I just hate Batman vs Superman. I mean, if I can watch just that clip of Batman vs Superman fighting or the warehouse, then great, fine. But I can't bring myself to sit through the rest of that movie.
All right. Well, this movie has taken a beating, so let's move on to our number 7 film. Corey and JP, you are going to be talking about Justice League.
Okay. JP?
Please, start.
Okay. Yeah, so this movie, I don't hate it as much as I do Batman vs. Superman, but I am probably the most frustrated as a whole with this film. I think the movie was just put together in like such a ridiculous way. The villain was awful, and there really wasn't any story, and the special effects just were clearly not finished, as I think we could agree on that. Yeah, I think that it was a result of all the issues that were going on behind the scenes, and Joss Whedon coming in, and just the film ended up being very disjointed for me.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I can echo all the points you said. It's disjointed. The special effects suck. The story is bad. The villain is bad. When I saw it in theaters, I sort of got to the end of the movie and I found myself having fun. This is my third worst of the DCEU, but I still remember that is when I saw it in theaters. For some reason, I was having fun. There's a lot of stories that don't have any beginning or end to them. They just sort of exist in this movie. But just parts of it, I found myself enjoying it. The fight at the end's pretty great. I just like seeing Batman in movies, I guess. Because I like Batman.
That's fair.
I'm trying to think. I mean, one of the things that I really did enjoy about it was the glimmers of banter that between all of the members, all the superheroes. I feel like at times they hit that. They kind of just got that right, especially with Jason Momoa. I think he's perfect for Aquaman. He does a great job, and I think that all the other actors play off of him very well. There was no one I really hated, except, I mean, Ezra Miller I didn't really care for. I didn't hate him. Ray Fisher I enjoyed, but I feel like he was in so little of the film, and I wanted to see more of that with Cyborg, because it's screwed up, like his origin story.
Yeah,
well,
and I think
you'll see it in the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. I think it's because they had $15 to animate his body, so they couldn't put him in as much of the movie as they wanted to. So that might have been it. I mean, yeah, like I liked Ezra Miller personally. There are two things I can say about this. This movie feels like the Fast and the Furious movie where Jason Statham's the bad guy. It feels like they went to a place, bad guy showed up, fight the bad guy goes away. They go to another place, bad guy shows up, they fight him, they go away. And that's pretty much the entire story, and that's how it feels. What is it, Fast and the Furious 7?
Yep,
6?
that is the 7th.
7?
7.
Yeah, they're just driving and suddenly Jason Statham shows up and hits them and they fight and then he goes away. And they just keep doing that the entire movie, and that's the plot of the movie. And I mean, that's sort of what that was. And then I just lost track of the other thing I had. I don't know. The after credit scene. The after credit scene was fantastic with the Flash and Superman racing.
Yeah,
I thought that was a great little nod to, and that made me giddy like a child in the movie theater.
Yeah, it's a nice throwback to the comics.
Yeah,
Which movie had Deathstroke in the after credits? Was that also Justice League?
that was Batman vs Superman.
Yeah. I mean, the movie. By the time it came out, my expectations were so low, and I still didn't really enjoy myself. I enjoyed the last fight. That was awesome. And any subsequent viewing after that, I don't know. It just doesn't really do much for me. But there are glimmers of cool things that happened. So I am excited in a way for what's gonna happen with the Snyder Cut. See what that is. But yeah, I mean, overall, just very disappointing.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the last film that's really in our bottom tier, and that's Suicide Squad. Corey and JP, you have the most opposite views on this film, so you want to continue your conversation?
I'm going to start off this
one.
I hate this movie. I hate this movie, and I want every minute of my life back that I spent watching this. It sucked. It was flipping through the radio of the movie. It was like you turn from like one cheesy 70s song to a cheesy 80s song, and something's happening, and there's crappy dialogue everywhere. There's a bad villain. There's a bad paced story. The Joker's purring all the time. He's just a really bad character. It's so bad. It's so incredibly bad that Will Smith and Margaret Robbie can't save it. I don't know what it is about the movie. I don't know what happened to it. I don't know if that's, you got to release the Ayer cut. I personally don't want to see that. I don't want to ever see
But you don't want to
again.
see. You don't want to see more Jared Leto.
No, I don't want to see more Jared Leto. The hype was so high, and then the first picture of him dropped the bar, and then seeing him on screen as just some sort of like weird abomination of Jim Carrey and a cat put together, purring and just start screaming at people, and the fight scenes were terrible. The best thing that come out of that movie were the trailers, because they bamboozled the hell out of me.
Oh yeah, I mean they went full Guardians of the Galaxy with those trailers.
Yeah, true.
In their tone, just trying to recut that film to make it look like, to do what James Gunn did, which is pretty hilarious that James Gunn is now coming in to do the sequel.
It's right in the ship. I want to see his cut of the first movie. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm interested to hear why you like this movie even a little bit.
So, the movie as a whole, I don't like. I think that it's a shitty movie, but it has some entertainment value for me. I mean, for one, I really, really like Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. I liked her in this movie. I think she was definitely the best part. She didn't save the movie, and I liked Will Smith. I liked him. I liked the two of them together. Everyone else in the Suicide Squad, I didn't really care for, but I didn't think they ruined it. What ruined it is the villain. Awful. Villains, I guess, because there were two.
Yeah.
And the movie just goes in the first half hour, 35 minutes, I think, is entertaining. But after that, it goes in such a weird direction. It's almost like Ghostbusters, like a really shitty Ghostbusters movie, especially at the end. Especially at the end. Think about it. I'm not saying that it's a good thing. I'm saying that a poorly done Ghostbusters movie, especially at the end.
That's already been done.
Oh, but I I liked the beginning of the movie. I liked certain aspects of Jared Leto's Joker. I don't think he's fantastic, but I liked the scenes with him and Margot Robbie a lot. Yeah, and it was something different. The movie is incredibly different from...
It's definitely something different.
Oh, yeah.
From anything else that they did. But yeah, it's not a movie I like. It's a movie that I would watch specific scenes, and that would be it. I wouldn't actually sit down and watch the entire film. I think it's definitely a poorly made film.
The best part about this movie, and this is the only time you'll ever hear these words uttered, is Jai Courtney.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the strongest performance in that movie.
Being entertaining.
He was pretty damn good.
I mean, I thought the actors went in like 100%. I mean, you saw that. They did what they could, but the script was very poor. The movie was shot incredibly poorly. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's incredibly underwhelming, but it has...
Bad movie.
It is.
It's a bad movie.
But it has some qualities for me, some entertainment value. So, that's all I have to say about that.
All right, well, that gets us through the majority of the Snyderverse era of the DCEU. Going up a tier, I would say, we have Shazam. We're consistently just going with you two on this one, JP and Corey.
Jeez.
All right.
Shazam.
You two don't agree really on anything in the DCEU,
Nope.
so continue to talk.
All right, well, I'll start on this one, JP. So, this movie... Don't think it's a bad movie at all. Definitely very entertaining, and what's his name? Who plays Shazam? Name escapes me. You guys?
Zachary Levi.
Zachary Levi. He was...
Doug jumped on that.
Yeah, there you
He's
go.
Such a big Chuck guy.
Chuck fan.
Yeah, I mean, he was...
Him and Robbie Amell, his two favorite actors.
He was fantastic, but I didn't like... One thing I didn't like about the movie was that it was trying to be so kid-friendly, and I get the type of character he is. I understand, but it just felt like a made-for-TV Disney movie. Like, that's what it felt to me. It just wasn't... It had some funny parts. It was entertaining, but that was kind of it. It didn't really leave a lasting impression for me. Except for Zachary Levi. Like, I thought he was fantastic. Oh, and Mark Strong. Mark Strong was awesome.
I mean, Mark Strong's good in most things he does.
He's good in everything, especially Green Lantern. Just gonna throw that out there.
But, I mean,
Drop.
I can get why you say it feels like a kids movie, but I think that's kind of clouded a little bit because there are a lot of things in this movie that are not a kids movie. Like when he lets out those smoke monster things.
Smoke monsters are not kid friendly.
Holy shit! That was some graphic, like Independence Day when the alien wakes up, or when Doc Ock wakes up in Spider-Man 2. That was frightening.
Mm.
That had like a Ghostbusters vibe to it. That movie kind of felt like an 80s type movie.
It did.
Like an Amblin type film that you'd see.
And I think
the mystique to it, and
I think JP, you and I both had experiences in the movie theater where parents brought their kids to see that movie, and when that scene happens and those smoke monsters get released, the deadly sins, just like kids are crying because it's a horrifying scene.
That's probably the only time I was okay with kids crying in the movie because it did its job, and it probably scarred them for a little bit. But, I mean, there are those things in this movie that are very much not kid-friendly, and I feel like you might get the kid-friendly vibe because the story is about, a 12-year-old child becoming a superhero. So, like, obviously it's going to feel a little childish, but I think they did a really, really good job in that facet because even when he was Zachary Levi, he felt like a child was just running around with a muscle suit on, punching things into oblivion, and I thought that was really, really cool. And it was a fun movie. It had, the family aspect to it that didn't seem too overly cheesy. And And then the ending was just, and Mark Strong was a fantastic villain. Even the movie starts out it starts out with that scene when they're in the car and there's all that tension, and then boom, the car crashes and it gets real graphic right off the bat. And it was sort of like I expected to go into this movie as like a kid's, like a kiddie, Zoomer type movie, and it's like, you got, the guys flossing in the trailer, and then you get that first scene, and then it kind of sets the stage for that scene in the meeting room in the boardroom when the monsters come out and just start murdering people, like graphically. It was I really like this movie, and I feel like this is a movie that I can go back, and I have gone back and watch again and again, and I'm excited for more of them because I think everyone involved in that movie did a fantastic job. Yeah,
I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I mean, I've seen it once, saw it with Murph, and it was just okay. It was entertaining, but I definitely want to watch it again. I just haven't had a chance to. So maybe my tune will change a little bit after seeing it a second time.
Yeah.
My biggest complaint about Shazam is the kid that plays Billy Bastion, just like doesn't line up with Zachary Levi's performance at all. Like their two performances don't really sync up. The kid that plays Billy Bastion's very like
Billy Baxter. Right?
Billy Baxter. No,
yeah, I was like, that didn't sound like his name.
I thought it was Bastion.
I think so. Baxter.
I thought it was Billy Bats. Billy Bats is Goodfellas.
Oh, Billy Batson, right?
Batson.
Battinson? Battinson. It was there the whole time.
I had Frank Vincent's character's name from Goodfellas with Billy Batson.
Billy Batson.
Yeah, so I bought that Zachary Levi was a 12-year-old. I just didn't buy that he was that 12-year-old.
Sure, yeah, I mean, he was kind of a bit of like an edgelord, like kind of. He's just like an ornery child.
Yeah,
I mean,
then, like Zachary Levi.
He didn't exactly have a great upbringing, so
yeah. But Zachary Levi's got that like happy child type thing. So I can see what Doug's saying. Is they're kind of two different people.
It never felt to me like it was him growing older. But it's a kind of a minor complaint.
Maybe there was some artistic choice. Like it's when he does the Shazam stuff, he kind of like also unleashes like the personality he could have had if he had grown up. If he had grown up in like a traditional upbringing versus his parents or his mom abandoning him. I don't know. But yes, they definitely were very different performances. But I think all of our personalities would fucking change if we went from being a kid to an adult with superpowers. If they didn't, that'd be kind of weird.
Oh, hell yeah, I'd be so evil.
Moving on. Let's go into the kickoff film of the DCEU and first of the Zack Snyder films, Man of Steel. I was never a Superman guy. Was always full fan of Batman, and then a fan of like Spider-Man and a lot of stuff the Marvel imprint was doing. But this one was probably the first Superman movie that I actually enjoyed quite a bit. It probably had to do with the fact that it wasn't considered as faithful to Superman as the previous stuff, like Superman Returns and the original Christopher Reeve films. Kind of felt a little more gritty, grounded. And it was also completely action-packed, which a lot of those older movies couldn't necessarily do because of the times or just because they didn't have villains that were powered enough where you could have a realistic fight. So the stuff between Zod and Kal-El in this film was just like destruction galore. And like just kind of like beat your senses down. But I enjoyed Henry Cavill's portrayal of the character, understood his like confliction between being this superpowered alien and trying to live a normal life, human life, based on what his adopted parents instilled in him. Kevin Costner being one of them, who we've joked was a absolutely pretty terrible father in the movie. But overall, I just think I like the Snyder's vision with it, and it was a good example of how he does casting well. And overall, I would say he batted probably an 800 out of 1,000 with his casting for the entire DCEU. There was only a few people who didn't seem right, Jesse Eisenberg being one of them, who was kind of an against the grain pick, which I will always respect, not doing the obvious.
I can see what he was trying to do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just kind of went, he did his Jesse Eisenberg, anxiety, or not anxiety. Can't think of the word I'm thinking of.
It's like manic and
his manicness
crazy,
to a 10. And it was just a little bit too much. But overall, the casting in Man of Steel was solid, and I would easily go back to that over the older Superman films and a lot of the DCEU films. So, Doug, I know you were also pretty high on the film.
Yeah, so this is your first Nolanized Superman movie, dark, as you said, dark and gritty.
But not too dark. It wasn't too dark and gritty. It wasn't like Batman vs Superman, where it was it was a miserable. It was like misery porn, versus being like a Nolan movie.
Yeah, this was definitely like a Nolan level of dark and gritty. I think Nolan was still involved in the DCU at the time Man of Steel came out.
Yeah, he was producing.
So you could definitely kind of feel what Nolan did with Batman, kind of being transferred over to Superman here. I thought it was a really entertaining movie. It was a little nice. It was a nice departure from what we had seen up until that point for the Man of Steel Superman. I thought Henry Cavill as Superman is a great casting choice. I think he does a great job. He's been underutilized in a lot of the other movies, but I mean, somehow that man just keeps getting more and more jacked. It seems like in everything I see him in. But the guy looks like a Superman, and then his performance is great on top of that. I do agree with a lot of the criticism, though, about Man of Steel, and probably the only thing I'll say that detracts a little bit for me on this film is that end scene is a little bit excessive, the end battle. There's only so much I can watch people flying through buildings before it starts to kind of get a little tiresome.
It was like Dragon Ball Z.
And then it did feel a little unfaithful to the character that Superman would just continue punching Zod through buildings, and they would just punch each other through buildings the whole time. Usually you would think that character would try to protect people, since that's his whole thing, and would have tried to move the battle somewhere that was a little bit more isolated. I know that was a common criticism, but it is something that I think is valid.
Maybe
but overall,
not to.
He was just becoming Superman at that point, so you're not going to be perfect at your job the day you start, or a week into it, however long he's been Superman in that film. But yes, overall we're pretty much on the same page. One last thing I want to note about Man of Steel is the score. Bringing Hans Zimmer into Superman, that score in that film was one of probably my top 5 superhero scores.
Yeah, it is very good
all time. I thought it was awesome, and it's very different from the John Williams score, which is also a fantastic one for Superman. But I think outside of Batman with Hans Zimmer and Danny Elfman, they're the only two that have given us 2 perfect scores for the same character. Not that there's a million examples of them, but was one other thing I wanted to note about the film and why I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. We're in our top 3 now. Our number 3 film is one that only came out a few months ago, and that is Birds of Prey. I had it actually as my favorite of all the films, and Doug, I believe you had it a little towards like the middle of the pack. You had it like 5 or 6. You want to start with why you had it where you had it?
Yeah, so I didn't love Birds of Prey. I know, obviously, you really enjoyed it. I found the movie to be, I guess not. Wasn't very interested in what was going on in that movie. I didn't really think the Harley Quinn character seemed like she needed her own movie. I thought she worked really well in Suicide Squad. As Corey said, she was probably one of the better parts of Suicide Squad. But seeing her in a standalone movie, I just didn't think that the character had enough going on. There was enough depth to that character for me to want to follow her for an entire movie. I know it's called Birds of Prey, but there weren't really a lot of other characters in that movie. Yeah, it was really just a Harley Quinn movie. So I didn't love that. I didn't love some of the choices they made when it came to there was like a really long scene about a sandwich that I just didn't think was like,
oh my
necessary.
God, that's like one of the best scenes. So funny.
I just like I didn't get it. It kind of just took me out of the movie a little bit more.
So funny
that we just spent minutes on Harley Quinn's love for a sandwich.
That it's an egg sandwich, Doug. It's an amazing egg sandwich.
It did look like a pretty good sandwich.
It looked like a good sandwich, but it just like, I don't know, give me some more Birds of Prey stuff than egg sandwich. I don't know. It just didn't focus on the things that I wanted to see in that movie.
I think you've been out of New Jersey too long, Doug. Egg sandwiches matter in this state.
Yeah, I just don't need a movie about it.
I agree with Doug. I wouldn't need a movie about an egg sandwich either.
We should note this is one film where not every one of us has seen it, so its ranking could have been a little higher or lower based on if JP had seen the film. But I'll go into my thoughts on it. In my opinion, superhero movies are only as strong as their villain, and I thought Ewan McGregor's Black Mask was by far the most entertaining of any villain in the DCEU so far. So I'd say he was largely responsible for where I ranked this film on my list. Also, would have to be shouting out Margot Robbie. I thought she was a blast to watch throughout the entire film, and a nice extension of her being in Suicide Squad. Looks like you're shaking your head as if you disagree that you enjoyed Margot Robbie. Doug?
No, I think Margot Robbie does a fine job. I just don't think the character is that interesting.
Gotcha.
Zaz was awesome too, as a gay, like a combo bad guy with Ewan McGregor.
As a gay combo bad guy.
Yes.
Yes.
He was amazing.
The award for best gay combo bad guy goes to
Victor Zaz.
No,
it's a packed category this year.
Yes, they were clearly lovers, Black Mask and Victor Zaz, but
it was hilarious.
They didn't actually come out and say it because they probably wouldn't have been able to release the film in China. Granted, I don't know if the film even did release in China because of coronavirus. Probably didn't. But yeah, overall, I thought the film was enjoyable. Could have definitely had more of the Birds of Prey, especially Mary Elizabeth Winstead. She wasn't in it very much, but I thought she gave a really funny performance in how like disconnected she was from like how a human being should act, because she basically grew up in like a Beatrix Kiddo, like Kill Bill type, learning how to train to become an assassin, and she just does not like communicate normally with the rest of society after being in training for so long, and her parents being murdered in front of her and everything like that. But the film ultimately was number one for me because of how much fun I found it to be. It didn't need to be an R-rated film. I think that hurt it. I think it kind of hurt it. It hurt it financially. I definitely enjoyed the fact that they were able to have some really, really cool action scenes.
Mm-hmm.
The director of the John Wick movies actually was like a second unit director on the film for the action scenes, which would explain why they were some of the coolest fight scenes in the entire DCEU. But yeah, they didn't ultimately need that rating. So I figured I'd mention that as well.
I think he came in after the fact too. Like for reshoots, they reshot or did new action scenes, and they brought him in. But you could definitely tell what
he came into Civil War too. I mean, he's been involved in doing some of the great action scenes of modern superhero film.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on, we got our top two films. They were pretty close to one another, but number 2 is James Wan's Aquaman. JP, you want to start with your thoughts on it?
Aquaman. All right, Aquaman. I thought it was a beautiful movie. I thought it looked...
It was a beautiful film.
It was
like chocolat.
It looked fantastic. It was from, the abyss scene where he's going down and there's all the red fish chasing him to when they're fighting on rooftops. Yeah, the trench. To when they're fighting on rooftops, like two completely different opposite, one super bright and sunny, one super dark. It had everything.
Including an octopus playing the drums.
Yep.
Don't forget that.
There you go.
Yes.
I thought Orn was a pretty good villain. I think in terms of if you're gonna talk about villains carrying it, I thought he had a great motivation. The actor was fantastic. The character itself was good. Got a cool purple and silver thing going on. I just think it was an all around solid movie, and I feel like in this pack of movies, that'll bring you right to the top. I mean, it didn't blow me away by any means, but it was definitely a good all around movie. Jason Momoa just did a fantastic job. His face. Willem Dafoe was fantastic in it as well. It was just a good movie, and I'm happy they got rid of the stupid air bubbles to speak. It was just they did a really good job with it. And I think it's a cool character. It's a great take on it. I like that they went with like the Pacific Islander type theme. Aquaman instead of it being just some weird blonde guy that lives underwater and speaks to fish. It definitely plays a lot better. Just because, it's kind of like, he's got the tattoos, it's just, he's got the trident. It looks fantastic. I think they did a really good job. And then the costume at the end was so like the only other thing in the DCEU that was as comic accurate was the Batman suit from Batman v Superman. And it's just great to see them pull it right from the comic. And just, here's a yellow and green suit. There's no filters on it. There's nothing. He's yellow and green. Just embrace the cheesiness. And Shazam. The Shazam costume was great too.
I like that DC's doing that. It always bugged me with X-Men that the X-Men never.
I was gonna say no one did it worse than X-Men. They would not put their characters in their costumes.
And they openly mocked it throughout the entire series. Like when Wolverine opens the box up and it's got the yellow and black thing from and he just laughs at it and says, put that thing on right now. Wear that.
And that Feige's going to have them go in their actual costumes and stuff.
For sure. I hope they do a 90s style. Cyclops has got the jacket that ends up here and the thing over. I want full on 90s X-Men. That'd be great. But Aquaman, just all around solid film. Looking forward to a second one. Loved it.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be one film that JP and I do agree on.
It's a miracle.
Yeah, I also, this was my number one. And this movie as a whole, I enjoyed. I loved the score. I thought the score was fantastic. I thought it was shot so well. Like James Wan like killed it. I mean, they wanted to make this movie as unique as possible. The way it was shot, the way the action scenes were shot, were choreographed, and they definitely, I think, succeeded in that. And I thought the story was entertaining, and everyone in the film like definitely brought their A game. Except I personally thought Willem Dafoe was annoying. He grated on me for whatever reason. But everyone else I thoroughly enjoyed. Patrick Wilson was so good as Orm. I wasn't expecting him to. I mean, he's a great actor, but I wasn't expecting him to be so good as a villain because I've never really seen him as a villain. I don't think I've ever seen him as a villain in anything. But yeah, Jason Momoa was awesome in it.
That Black Manta costume was
that was perfect. Yeah,
it's so cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and
Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah.
Right.
I forgot his name, but who plays? Who plays Black Manta? He was awesome too. Like there really wasn't a weak link in the cast.
I just realized we had both Dr. Manhattans in that film.
Did we? What's his name was in it? Or was in that movie?
Oh shit! No, we didn't. We had Night Owl.
Yeah, Patrick Wilson.
God damn it!
Yeah, well, I forgot it.
Edit this out.
Just beep it all out as he says that.
But yeah, I mean, this whole conversation is getting. I want to watch the movie again. I haven't watched it in a while, so I'll probably be doing that at some point this weekend. Yeah, I really like that film.
Cuddle up with your pet fish and watch Aquaman.
Yeah.
Cool. Number one film. Not really a surprise. I mean, it's the consensus number one film of the DCEU thus far. Wonder Woman.
It's a good movie.
It's all right.
Really the first female-fronted superhero movie that was actually made to be a legitimately good movie. I mean, every one prior to that has always been kind of expected to be shit. I'm thinking of movies like Catwoman with Halle Berry. Off the top of my head, I can't even think of another one. But, Elektra. Elektra was also obviously going to be bad. But this one was a good one. Corey, you already kind of jumped in and said you don't think it's as good as the hype would have indicated or what people think at large. You want to go into why?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great film. I think Patty Jenkins does an unbelievable job with the script and with the way the movie's shot. The special effects definitely, especially towards the end of the movie, I think they ran out of money, but the special effects at the end were pretty poor. But that doesn't really, hinder the film itself. For me, a lot of it comes back to just Wonder Woman as a character. Like, I just don't find her very interesting. Like, she's very just boring for me, in terms of a female superhero. I could think of a lot of other female superheroes that have been adapted better to the times. With her and Superman, I feel like is also guilty of this. They've struggled to adapt those characters for the times. They came
lives in the 50s.
Yeah, and it's just the way that those characters are, that the way that they were designed. Man of Steel did it to an extent, and I think that Gal Gadot, Patty Jenkins for Wonder Woman also probably succeeded even more so. But yeah, I mean, that's why the movie for me kind of just fell a little flat, because I'm just not that invested in the character. I think also part of it is because I was burned because of Batman vs Superman, and all of that. But yeah, I mean, it didn't really have a good villain. I feel like it's just, it was all right. It was very average for me. It didn't strike me as as such an unbelievable film as everyone else said it was. But doesn't mean it was a bad movie. It was just okay for me.
Yeah, I thought the film was very well made. I wasn't expecting anything out of it based on the most recent films in the DCEU at the time. So the Batman vs. Superman and Suicide Squad. So I didn't even have any intention of seeing it in theaters because I felt so burned by Batman vs. Superman. But based on the glowing reviews and the hype from that opening weekend, I actually did see it on, I don't know, Sunday night of opening weekend and was pleasantly surprised. I feel like it was kind of the turning point for the DCEU going in a positive direction. The exception being Justice League, but by that point, the damage had already been done with that film being filmed. But everything else has been pretty strong. The only, if you look at our list, pretty much everything that was at the bottom that we can pretty much agreed that they weren't good movies. No matter, we may have liked certain things about them, they were all films from the beginning of the era.
Yeah.
So there was definitely growing pains of kind of shoehorning everyone in together at the same time, and the standalone movies were the ones that really kind of knocked things out of the park. But I think the stuff with Chris Pine and Gal Gadot they have great chemistry.
Yeah,
together.
no, I agree with you. They did.
They were kind of lacking in the villain aspect of things, which probably is what kept it from being my top film. Honestly, if you asked me on any different day of the week, I could probably go between Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and Birds of Prey as my favorite. I think they were all very strong movies.
I loved what they did.
I'm excited for 1984.
Yeah, I mean it looks interesting for sure. I mean, I'll definitely see it, but I'm leaving my expectations low, so maybe I'll really enjoy it. But I do like Pedro Pascal, and he's probably gonna kill it, I'm sure. But I mean, with Wonder Woman, my favorite part of that movie was definitely the Amazons. Like when they were in, what was it, Themyscira? I think that's what the island's called.
Themyscira.
Themyscira, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that is the most interesting lore with Wonder Woman, and I think they represented that really, really well. It was more of the fish out of water stuff was good with Wonder Woman, but kind of everything that on the tail end of the movie, I didn't really care for. That's where it kind of fell off for me. But yeah,
I like the World War I setting.
Yeah, that was good.
Until now, I mean, obviously with 1917, that's something that you didn't see too much. You still had the Ottoman Empire going, and I thought some of the minor villains were actually a lot cooler than the main one. I liked the twist at the end; it got me a little bit.
Yeah,
but
surprised me.
The doctor with the half face mask thing, I thought that was really cool. She was really, really cool looking. It's a great character design right there, and it gave it this. There's a cool little mystique and kind of feel to all that stuff, because it's sort of like the birth of weapons of mass destruction, and it was just pretty neat that they touched on that.
Yeah, bringing in Ares was cool. It just I didn't like the fight, and I didn't like what he the special effects, but
yeah, it definitely left something to be desired.
All right. As we noted at the beginning, we did not include Joker in our rankings. Had we included it, where do you guys think that would have? Where would you have put it?
I would probably say, for me, 3 or 4. The movie, kind of similar to Wonder Woman for me. Like, the movie was shot incredibly well. The acting was superb, but it's not something that I would watch over and over again. And I think a lot of that with this movie has to do with just how dark and real it was. It was just a very real take on, that type of character, and it
was another
draining.
example of misery porn. I just think it was done a lot better than the previous one we talked about.
And, some people enjoy that to an extent. But that movie, it's not something that I would probably revisit that often. Every so often I will, because it is really well made. But it's not my favorite out of the movies, so probably 3 or 4.
Yeah, I think I'd put it probably in that same range. Probably right below those top 3 films I had mentioned before of Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and Birds of Prey. Right around the Man of Steel range. It was Joaquin Phoenix did a really good job. The acting was strong. The story was story was kind of paper thin, but he kind of elevated the material enough, and I do agree it was very well shot, and the score was fantastic. Hence the fact that Joaquin Phoenix and the composer of the film both won Oscars this year. But yeah, I don't know. Something felt a little lacking in it, and it was probably the story overall.
Yeah, and it was just so overhyped, and I didn't think that it was going to ever reach the expectations that were set for it. I would like to see Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix do something else together, even if it's another Joker movie, but just something else, because I think that they work very well together. Something original.
Yeah, I was going to say, what about another Hangover movie?
I would just like to see them do something original, because I think they're a good combo.
If he does Joker 2, he's just going to redo Joker all over again.
In Thailand.
Yeah.
I just hope that they don't do a sequel. I mean, it doesn't need it. The movie is a one and done, but that's just me. Prove me wrong, I guess.
Doug, you saw the film as well. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm in the minority where I didn't really like the Joker at all. I'd probably put it right above Suicide Squad on my list, so it's still it would be in the bottom half for me. I just thought the movie overall just kind of felt shallow. I didn't find it I guess it felt like it was supposed to be a descent of this person into madness, and I just didn't. I don't know. I just didn't buy it. I thought Scorsese's work with Taxi Driver was a lot more interesting and better done. And this kind of felt like a knockoff to me a bit.
So you're saying Todd Phillips is no Martin Scorsese?
How dare you?
It's a bold statement, but yeah. I'm saying that Todd Phillips is no Martin Scorsese. I just didn't love the movie. And outside of Joaquin Phoenix's performance and the score, I just didn't think that there was a lot of meat to that story. I finished it, and I didn't feel the movie didn't make me feel anything. And I know that there are people who have watched it that the movie did make them feel something, and so that's great. I mean, that's how movies work. Some people react differently, but for me, it just didn't really do anything.
No, that's totally fair. Upcoming movies for the DCEU, we've got a lot of sequels. Wonder Woman 1984, The Suicide Squad, Batman. Well, that's not necessarily a sequel, just another interpretation of Batman. Black Adam and Shazam 2. So those are both going to be continuing in the world of Shazam. The Rock playing Black Adam, which is a similar type of character to Shazam. And then we've got Aquaman 2, along with supposedly The Flash actually coming out. Any of these in particular that you are super excited about or want to add any thoughts about?
Well, I mean, I'm not too big of a fan of Batman, so.
That's true. I think you've always said how much you don't like Batman.
Oh, man. I can't wait for the Batman. Keeps getting me out of bed every day. And so the Flash movie they're talking about potentially doing a Flashpoint, and everyone's big tinfoil hat theory online is that they're going to bring Pattinson into the DCEU
They
by
could.
some sort of Flashpoint thing, which I wouldn't care for.
I know they were talking about Flashpoint like after the original, like the Justice League.
It's their reset
didn't do so
button.
well. Yeah, it's a reset, but
Huge mistake.
Now that they're doing so well with the standalones, I don't really see the need for them to do a Flashpoint.
It's a confusing concept, too, and it's just, why would you make it that much more complex after you've kind of...
I mean, like you said, Flashpoint has always been a vehicle for a reset.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the comics.
No, go JP. You can.
I would love to see Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Thomas Wayne Batman.
Yeah.
With the red eyes and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I would love to see that, but
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I mean that movie, or that potential movie, I guess. Flashpoint. I feel like would be better suited for a standalone. I mean, yeah, it would serve a purpose because it would be a reset button. And to Doug's point, they kind of are on like a little bit of a roll now, that they don't really necessarily need to do that. But I do think that as a standalone film, Flashpoint would be great. But Aquaman 2 is definitely a film that I would really like. I'm really excited to see. So
Yeah, I'm just happy to say that I will see every single one of these movies. And if you had asked me in 2017 if I was going to be seeing all the movies on deck, I would have said no fucking way. So ultimately, I think this series has turned itself, or this franchise has turned itself around a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty, if you put them up against the first 8 films in Marvel, I think people would be surprised at how close the quality is between both of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only difference really is the fact that we didn't get a good group picture.
Yeah.
And we got everything leading to the Avengers during those first 8 movies. But
they tried something different. They tried to do it reverse, and it didn't work.
Yeah, and for all we know, it will work next year when we see the Snyder Cut. Despite, I don't think it will, but it's possible, I guess.
Snyder Cut's going to change everything.
You never know.
It's just 4 hours of misery porn.
That's what I'm expecting.
Yeah.
All right, but I think we've talked about the DCEU enough for one day. So let's go into what we've been watching over the past week. Provide our recommendations for everyone listening. I know the first thing that we all wanted to talk about, well, 3 of us wanted to talk about, was Rick and Morty. We were all in agreement that the season did not start out very strong, and this second half of the season hasn't been. It's been similar to the first half, and where it's been kind of a let down, a little bit of a hit and miss situation. We are all in agreement, though, that the 3rd episode of this season, the Vat of Acid episode, it was by far the best of this half season. I think of the entire season. What about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, easily for me.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it was definitely a return to form. I mean, we didn't get the family involved like I know we had been waiting for, but it was a great episode of just classic Rick and Morty with a Rick and Morty adventure. That was it was fun.
It's funny, the fact that the adventure was based around something so ridiculous, and it just gets more insane as the episode goes along, but not in a way that's like so meta or anything like that, where it like kind of takes you out of it. Like you can actually see everything that's happening and being like, okay, this is something that would absolutely happen, that Rick would do. It was just hilarious and went in directions that I wasn't expecting, but the fact that they did it, props to them, and it was just hilarious.
Apparently they wrote it in a day.
That's crazy.
That's what they were saying. They wrote it in a day, and it was 5 minutes short, and then the director went and added in the sort of like meat of that one scene in the middle. I won't spoil it, but I mean, it's pretty amazing that they could do that. It's just such a stupid idea that just worked out so well.
Sometimes those one day where they just throw something together winds up being like one of the best episodes. What comes to mind immediately is Seinfeld with the marine biologist episode. I believe they just kind of wrote that overnight, and so that wound up being a classic Seinfeld episode. Another one that I think they kind of slapped together was that South Park Scott Tenorman episode.
Oh,
that's probably the consensus pick for like the best episode, or at least the best Cartman episode.
It's easily top 5 for me.
It's a great episode, but it's one where they just like threw it together. They didn't think it was a very good episode when they put it out, and sometimes it works.
Yeah.
What did you guys, speaking of stupid ideas, what did you guys think of Rick's idea, which was the basis of this entire episode, which to get out of a jam with these gangsters, he had a fake vat of acid, which they would then have to jump into to fake their deaths. In that vat of acid, there was emergency releases. Bones would come up to show that they had in fact actually died. They had some some plan Bs in case some additional things got thrown in to show that it is in fact acid and they are dead. What were your thoughts?
Morty, a ladle got dropped into the acid.
Morty thought the idea was absolutely ridiculous, which is what led to the bulk of the episode. Him insulting Rick for his idea. What did you guys think of it?
I mean, I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. It was it's an overly complicated way to get out of a plan. It's classic Rick. When you could just shoot your way out of those gangsters. There's no reason that they couldn't overpower
Which Morty
them.
Eventually does.
They eventually did that.
Yeah, they eventually wound up doing that anyway, but it just goes to show you that they could have easily gotten out of that situation without such a complicated, convoluted plan. But that's what makes the episode so great.
I mean, I don't know about you, Doug, but at all possible chances, I tried not to vaporize people with laser guns, So I feel like it was pretty smart. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's a cartoon. It's a classic cartoon gag where you're doing something, you have this laser gun, and you just like blow them all away when they're sitting there for hours watching it. But I don't think there was anything wrong with it. After watching the damn episode, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I would never say otherwise.
Yeah, but
because what'll happen?
I mean, when you're
the implication,
I wouldn't shoot people with lasers either. But when you're looking at the characters, which are Rick and Morty, I mean, Rick doesn't care about lives. Rick,
they did Pearl Harbor a place last week.
And almost 9/11.
They almost did.
They almost 9/11. They Pearl Harbored it instead.
Oh,
I'm leaning towards JP though. I thought the idea, despite the fact that there probably are easier ways to have gotten out of it, I thought the actual plan itself was very clever.
It's pretty solid.
Like having the bones come up, I thought was just a fantastic touch. You wouldn't even think that's I wouldn't have thought it was necessary to actually do. But I guess it does make sense that they would want to see the remains of these people that they wanted dead. But
why they have extra bones? That didn't make it because they had the first set of bones, right? Mm-hmm. And then the rat gets thrown in, and then they try and send out more bones. I guess and then more bones come up.
Yeah, they were planning for multiple scenarios where other things could have came in, including other people. But I'm siding with Rick. I thought Morty did him dirty with his insults. And I don't know if he necessarily deserved what he got, but I thought it was a good idea.
He always deserves what he gets.
Morty Smith, he's a little shit.
Yeah, he's a little shit.
But all right, our individual recommendations, since that was the only thing that a bunch of us watched. Corey, you had Mythic Quest. You want to talk a little bit about that? None of us have seen it at all.
Yeah, so kind of piggybacking off of my pick from the last time we talked, just another Apple TV Plus show. This was Rob McElhenney's kind of brainchild for Apple TV Plus. About it's kind of like The Office. It's that type of comedy. And just based around a game developer. And I was really surprised at how funny it was. Definitely for the gamer crowd. I think if someone that isn't into video games stumbled on it, I don't think that the jokes would hit as well. Because a lot of the jokes are just centered around that type of fandom, pop culture. But it was written really well. The main core group of characters were written incredibly well, and you could tell that they definitely wrote them around the actors, actual personalities. It was just really, really funny. So, like, if you're into video games in any way, and just really pop culture, it's a good watch. If you have Apple TV Plus, it's really, really funny. Yeah, that was my pick.
Doug, what about you?
So I took your recommendation, Murph, and I started The Last Dance, and I'm enjoying it so far. I'm not very far into it yet. I've only just finished the first 2 episodes, but it's good. I almost forgot how big of a deal Michael Jordan was in the late 80s, early 90s, or in the late 80s and 90s. But it's a really good, well done documentary, which really does give you a really good insight into Michael Jordan's life, how he got to be on the Bulls, his backstory growing up, and just a lot of the inner team dynamics for the '97 Bulls. And so I'm enjoying it. I'm sure there's a lot more to see, but good recommendation.
Yeah, I think you're going to like it a lot moving forward. And there's episodes specifically about Michael Jordan, his importance in the world and how big of a cultural figure he was. And it's just insane. Similar to what you said, I did not realize just how huge he was at the time, since we were all pretty damn young when he was in the peak of his popularity.
It's definitely on my short list too.
I had a Michael Jordan jersey, and I never watched a game of basketball.
Yeah, I mean, it's normal.
I had a Scottie Pippen one, and I don't know if I had ever watched a Bulls game in the 90s either.
Well, I just finished episode 2, and it really makes you feel for Scottie Pippen.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't also realize that he got screwed monetarily,
contractually.
Mm-hmm.
The Bulls got him bad.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but JP, you had one that I know you've watched a million times. You want to
top 5.
dive into it.
Kill my credibility. One of my top 5 all-time favorite movies that I will watch over and over again. Chef. I love this movie. We had a nice little virtual cooking class last night, Thursday night, at the house, and where we made chocolate lava cake. So, fucking molten chocolate lava cake. Got to watch Chef. So I woke up today and I watched Chef while I was working, and probably won't be the last time I watch it in the next month, because, damn, I love that movie. It's not new. It's not anything crazy, but man, I love that movie. I can watch that over and over and over again, and I do.
Is that that Jon Favreau movie?
Yeah, it's Jon
Yep.
Favreau. Jon Favreau at his best, I feel like. I feel like he just...
It is a great movie. I will
Yeah.
second your opinion on it. I watched it as recently, again, last year, probably last summer, and it held up well. John Leguizamo was fantastic in
I
it.
love John Leguizamo in it.
Bobby Cannavale, Robert Downey Jr.,
yeah.
Sofia Vergara. Just a great cast.
Not
Favreau kills it. Scarlett Johansson, Oliver Platt. Just a damn good cast.
There you go.
If you haven't watched it, you absolutely should. Where did you
Definitely.
watch it? I saw it on Amazon Prime the most recently.
Man, I own that.
You own that shit. All right, but it may be on Amazon Prime for those interested.
Yeah, I know. I bought it on Google Video or on the Play Store. I think they took it off of Netflix a while ago. But in the same vein, Chef Show on Netflix is fantastic, and it's just Favreau and I forget his name, but it's the chef that they did a lot of consulting on. Show them how to cook all the stuff. They go around and they just cook meals with random chefs, and they'll bring in. They had a bunch of MCU people on it. They had Tom Holland and a bunch of the other guys, Robert Downey Jr. and I think Kevin Feige. Out in Atlanta, and they went to a restaurant, and then they cooked something. It's a fantastic show. I think there's like 3 seasons of it on Netflix now. You know, if you're looking for inspiration on stuff to cook or just restaurants to go to, if you find yourself in a city, it's a great show.
And I apologize to everyone. Chef is no longer on Amazon Prime.
Yeah. It's one of those that you got to buy. Or you can just rent it. It's like, you rent a movie for like $3.
I've honestly never seen it, so I know I'm going to add it. I will add it to my short list of things.
Don't watch it hungry. Or do. You're going to want to eat a lot.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. And my recommendation for the week, I'm watching a lot of Schitt's Creek. That show just sort of blew up over the past couple of years. Once it went on Netflix, a lot of people recommended watching it. Finally started doing that over quarantine. So I've watched a lot of seasons, I guess over the past week, 3 and 4. Hilarious show. Just the perfect ensemble cast with Eugene Levy and his son, Dan Levy. They co-created it along with Catherine O'Hara and Annie Murphy. They are all riotous. The more episodes you watch, the more you kind of appreciate the subtleties of each character and can kind of like predict how they're going to react to things. But
Chris Elliott's in it too.
Yep, Chris Elliott's very funny. So you've watched the show, JP?
Yeah. I've seen the majority of it.
Okay, and you like it too?
Yeah, it's funny. It's a funny show. Definitely has its little niche, but I don't hate it. I think it's definitely got some really funny parts in it.
Yeah, so I'll probably be finishing up that in the next 2 weeks. Only have 6 seasons total. It's on Netflix. But I would recommend it for those looking to watch a sitcom in their spare time. You're going to get a full 80-episode run, I believe it is. And from those who have watched the entire series, it seems to end in a satisfying manner.
It's definitely one of the better ones out there currently.
Awesome. That's all we got, though, for this week. Oh, by the way, I looked it up, and the original Dr. Manhattan was in Justice League.
Oh.
So while I fucked up the movie, but he is in the DCEU.
What was he in Justice League?
He's Barry Allen's dad.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Has the entire cast of Watchmen been in? I guess Melon Ackerman hasn't.
No, and Jackie Earl Haley wasn't, right? He wasn't.
Unless he was a voice of something.
He might.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan was.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan was in it. Both Dr. Manhattans have been in it.
I feel like
That'd be interesting to see.
I feel like Jackie Earle Haley might have done something in one of the earlier movies. I don't know, like
This
a
is the
voice
shit
or
we're going to
something.
be talking about, everyone, when we hang
Yeah.
up on this right now.
Yeah.
Just so you all
I'm-
know, this is how
I'm
our
already pulling it up right now.
But that's it for us tonight. Thank you for everyone who listened. Please be sure to leave comments. Let us know what do you think ultimately, what you want to hear more of. If there's anything that you think isn't worth our listeners' time, if we have any listeners, we'll find out about that in the near future. But sincerely, thanks for listening, and we will see you next time. So, as always, this has been Corey, Doug, JP, and Murph on Live Breathe Film, and we will see you next time.
Yeah,
Later.
Have a happy Memorial
See
Day.
ya.